Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to some of you. We want to welcome you to our monthly Global Chamber Author Series. And we're delighted to have each and every one of you here today because we know you're here for a winning opportunity, because that's the title of our Global Chamber Author Series today. So, today, this evening for us in Atlanta, our special guest speaker is actually across the pond and then some and Hong Kong. And then we have people on in India and other parts of the United States, California, Atlanta again. So we want to welcome each and every one of you. And I'm going to introduce myself, but I'm going to do something a little different that we normally do towards the end. I would like to know, just from a show of hands or even in the comment box, is this your first Global Chamber author series? So if you can, you either raise your hand or in the comment box, you can put a number one. The number one would, be representative of first time attending the Global Chamber author series. So I'll be checking the chat for that. And then I had to transfer our slides over to this laptop. So I'm opening this up while we do that. Yes. We want to welcome you for your first time, and you'll get to see what the cadence is. You got to hear from our incredible CEO and founder for Global Chamber, Doug Brunke. He welcomed each and every one of you, and I want to extend that welcome to you as well. My name is Dana Austin, Dr. Dana Austin, and I am the Global Chamber Author Series Director and the Global Chamber Atlanta Executive Director. I'm delighted to be able to bring this to you today because we share what we call is an opportunity to engage, an opportunity where you get to engage with one another, where we also get to ask questions, share our experiences, and learn. And we do this once a month, the third Wednesday of the month, generally at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then a few times a year, we do it at 8 p.m. because we want to accommodate our Global Chamber members across the pond and then some to be able to come on live as well, to engage, to ask questions, to contribute. And we get quite a bit in our replay. So just know many people will be listening to this replay, your questions and your comments as well. I'm going to go ahead and share the slides here. Everybody can see it. A thumbs up is good if you can. Okay. Awesome. All right. All right. So from this first one here, well, I want to talk about something else, pivoting. What I've had to do quite a bit this week is pivot, which means you have a plan, and that plan may not necessarily be on the course and align exactly as you would have it to go. So, what we have to be able to do in business and life is to pivot, make the necessary adjustments to still achieve the goal. So, there was a lot of pivoting going on. And so, here we are at the Global Chamber Author Series, where we share stories, tips, and techniques. We want you to engage here because we are a vibrant community of writers worldwide. What we learned in the last 3.5, 4 years when the Global Chamber Author Series component was started is that we had well over 100 authors that we know about in the author series. And so Gloria Peterson started this 3.5, almost 4 years ago to engage authors and to encourage those who want to write. So I was a part of that from its inception, even when she had the idea, because as a best-selling and award-winning author and a writer's coach, I wanted to also see this thrive and kind of take off. And in the last 2 years, um, in December, I was passed that baton by Gloria. So what we do here is engage. We are looking forward to this to be an interactive um, Globinar as it always is. This is just sharing some of my background. Some of it I shared with you as well. One thing you may not know about me is that I'm a certified tea consultant in addition to a healthcare professional and a research specialist. I love tea and culture and customs. And what I was really excited about our guest speaker tonight is that he's in a part of the world where quite a bit of the tea in that region is grown. He's also in the part of the world where he has mastered the art of negotiation. Um, so, as a tea consultant, I just really love sitting down over a cup of tea for conversation and business. And I have an academy for writers as well. So this really just was a natural fit for me to move in to support our global chamber authors and aspiring authors in this space. This is one of my latest books on writing, and I wanted to share with you for the first time. If you've not heard about Global Chamber, we want to welcome you. And what we do is we do business globally as easy as we do it locally. How do we do that? We have a presence. We have a presence in 525 metros and growing. Yes, you can say wow. Yes, 525 metros and growing, five continents, 195 countries represented with Global Chamber. And our mission continues to be to accelerate cross-border trade and investment in every region of the world by engaging our top executives and leaders with warm connections. We do that well. I had an opportunity to talk to a few of our guests today about how we do that in Global Chamber. And we help to grow business, create success, and change the world. Are you guys about changing the world? I think you're in the right place tonight because that's a winning spirit. With Global Chamber, we are headquartered right here in the United States in Phoenix, Arizona at the Thunderbird School of Global Management. And with that location, we're not just physically located, we are actually integrated in what they do. And as a result of that alliance, Thunderbird School of Global Management is in 30 cities around the world. So our reach extends where Thunderbird wings are. So I'm going to jump right in tonight to introduce to you our guest speaker. And his name does not necessarily coincide to where he physically is, but I love his backstory. We'll have an opportunity for us to ask questions to him to share what he does in his business and how he can help you win. So tonight we're going to discuss winning in Asia and Europe and the negotiation stratagems. And my favorite part of the stratagems word is the gems because he's going to leave us with some tonight. Our special guest is Jean-Baptiste Déal. And Jean-Baptiste, he is an incredible businessman. And his background, I'm going to share that with you. I have that on the other laptop. This is what you do when you multitask. So he has an institute called the Déal Institute, and Déal Negotiation Institute, and they focus on negotiation strategies and tools. His primary mission is really helping leaders and future leaders to improve their negotiation skills so they can achieve their goals in an increasingly interconnected world. We are interconnected. So we have to master those skills for different parts of the world, and this is what they do well. And he wants to do that where beyond languages and barriers, where people find themselves disoriented with cultural barriers that seem insurmountable. So after his journey, which is quite exceptional and extensive and global, he has marked by language exposure to diverse cultures and the development of negotiation skill. He's gained hands-on negotiation experiences that he's going to share with us tonight. And those experiences was working on international projects for more than 20 years. And through this journey, he's represented numerous interests, including those of both the private and the public sector, and negotiate on behalf of others with various profiles. So whether it's from the buying space, purchasing, sellers, investors, and different backgrounds, primarily in Europe, that's why the focus is on that tonight, North America and Asia, that's the other focus, but also in African and South American to lesser extent. So I know some of you were thinking, well, what about us? So it's his reach and global. His background is well over 20 years. And drawing from that background, that's where he developed this comprehensive negotiation skill. Now, before we get you started, Jean-Baptiste, I want to just get a show of hands and welcome Rebecca. Welcome each of you. I won't call you all by name, but it's great to see each of you on. How many of you think that you're really good at negotiation? So if I had to do a survey or a poll, this is what it would be. How many of you think that you're good at negotiation, that you've got that skill down? You can raise your hand or you can put a number two in the chat. And if I don't see a hand or a number, that means you're open tonight to learning something incredible. Okay, Tino and Donna, welcome. Yes, and welcome, Rebecca. Okay, two, yes, and would love to learn more. So we have a few that are good at negotiation, but they definitely would love to learn more. And the title of our Globinar tonight is Winning. You're already winning because you're here. So, Jean-Baptiste, please, the
Thank
floor
you.
is yours.
Thank you very much, Dana. Well, it's a pleasure to be your guest, and thank you very much for your introduction. Like this is, I'm incredibly proud to be here with you. And I've known the Global Chamber for a number of years now, and I find that the job that you do with Doug and the team is quite impressive and amazing. So thank you very much. Um, all right. So without further ado, and as you all know, I've been in Asia for 20 years. So originally I was born in France, and I started my journey by learning languages. So obviously English, and then I started learning Italian, and then I moved to China, to Beijing, where I started learning Mandarin Chinese. And as you mentioned, I am currently based in Hong Kong. So, my wife is a Hong Kong lady, so we speak many languages every single day at home. So I'm quite accustomed to languages, cultures, negotiation, so that's what I do every day. And by the way, negotiation is something that we do every single day with our kids or family or business partners every single day. So let me share my screen so that you will see a presentation that I've prepared for today. All right. I think it should be on. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So basically, I would like to introduce my book and also my workshops to the community, and tell you a bit more about my story. So and hopefully you can gain from my experiences. So I'll be speaking about negotiating in Asia and also in Europe because I was born in Europe and I live in Asia, but this is applicable internationally. And I think what we want to say is that we are all brothers and sisters because about 20,000 years ago, can you believe that there were probably only about 4 or 5 million people living on the planet? It's not a lot. And you can think of that as critical, right? And this is mind-boggling. And the other thing is, our DNA or DNA suggests that when that was the case, there was no more than when there was no more than 20,000, sorry, 4 or 5 million people on the planet. That was just like around 20,000 years ago, and then um, uh, it's also critical to know that it was roughly about 800 generations ago. So 800 generations might seem like a long time ago, but actually, when I was a kid, I have known my great grandma, so first generation, my grandparents, second generation, my parents, third, I'm the fourth generation, my kid, fifth. Maybe hopefully one day I'll be, meeting my grandkids and maybe my great grandkids. So that's already seven. Possibly I have a touch. I could be able to have a physical contact with 7 or 8 generation in my lifetime. And now go back to what I just said before about 800 generations. And you see, it's only like 100, like lifespans away. It's not so long ago, but that's when people were actually in caves writing and drawing on walls, and before even writing, but basically they were drawing in those caves, and those stories were written and painted on walls. So it really tells you that people were negotiating 20,000 years ago, even before writing. and we are all brothers and sisters. So we actually essentially we want what we want is exactly the same across the world. But sometimes, because of the language barrier and the cultural barrier, we have no clue what people are trying to say or what's going on. So that's what I'm trying to do with the Deal Negotiation Institute and making sure people can negotiate confidently across border, across culture. So the Global Chamber is the perfect platform for that. So obviously, I wrote a book, Winning with Ancient Wisdom, Negotiation Strategies from Asia and Europe, because I've learned quite a bit in Europe and also quite a bit in Asia over 20 years. And yeah, so those strategies have been passed down from generation to generations. Can you believe that? Like through storytelling. This is quite impressive. And in Asia, they're called the 36, we call them the 36 Chinese stratagems. And basically, they're idioms or Chinese proverbs. They're made up of 4 characters, and there's a story behind them. And they're used every single day. And they're actually, those 36 stratagems are really relevant to negotiation, but there's many more idioms and Chinese proverbs, that are used every single day in China. So they're like so um, important in life in Asia. So they're used like even when you say Chinese New Year, when it's Chinese New Year, you say Happy Chinese New Year, 恭喜发财, right? This is another Chinese proverb. So believe it or not, I've learned a lot because in China, everyone is using them every single day. You have to know those stories so you can negotiate. Everyone will be using, it's like the trick book of negotiation. So you have to know those stories. And when I had the time and the chance to reflect and just try to make sense of it all, and I actually realized that we also have a lot of wisdom in Europe, and those are shared in the fables. And you know that you all know them because they're from the Aesop fables, right? So the Aesop fable in France, in the French-speaking world, they're called the La Fontaine fables. And this is really impressive because those are stories again. And there's a lot of wisdom shared in those stories. And they've been passed down from generation to generation from the Greek times. So there's so much wisdom that we can learn from those stories. And so I used the Chinese stratagem and the methodology in the Chinese stratagems to actually look at European fables and plug them in. And so basically now I
Yes.
have a guide, a negotiation guide for negotiating in Asia and in Europe, thanks to this ancient wisdom. Yes, Dana.
Yes, you might hear me interject a little bit. The slides aren't advancing, so I want to be sure that if you are advancing them, we're not seeing that at this moment.
Okay. I'm on the slide with the book at the moment.
Okay, then that's where we are. So with that
Yes.
in mind, I know we have 25 slides, so we should move through them at least every 30 seconds to be able to get some questions in, because I know we're going to have some.
Very good. Absolutely. Thank you, Dana. All
Yeah.
right, so basically, outside of the book, I have developed the workshops. And as I said, we have 36 Chinese stratagems. We have 36 European strategies also. And I've seen and I've practiced them for many years over my career as a management consultant. I've used them every single day, and they're so relevant. So this is negotiation is a soft skills that is critical. It pays forever, to learn how to negotiate. This is a very critical soft skill to have. So what's the problem? Well, obviously, and what does it matter? Well, the point is when we go over the border, why do we go there in the first place? It's actually because we're looking for value, right? That's the point of global trade. And there's value and differences create value, right? So you want the maximum amount of value for yourself, for your business. So differences create value. This is true in life. This is also true in anything. It can be even chemistry, it can be science. Differences create value. Something that has value for someone may have no value for someone else, and that's how you create value. So the problem is obviously language barrier. The first step is the language barrier because you don't know how to communicate with the other party. but also you have a cultural barrier. So people don't actually understand what they mean when they say something. Even though they understand the words, they might not understand the meaning behind those words. So you have to understand the culture. So this is kind of the whole setup, right? So all programs are described and are designed to, number one, acquire knowledge. Number two, we want to make sure that people can negotiate from inside the head of the other party. We want also to avoid the traps and pitfalls because I've seen so many situations where people walk into a trap with a big smile. They don't even realize what's going on. Oh, wow. And actually, it's a big trap. You also want to maximize your opportunities. You want to get the upper hand. And the last point is very important. Strengthen your reputation. Make sure that people recognize you as a strong person. You're the right person for negotiating. And by the way, my name is Déal, right? I was born with it. It's a real name. Yeah, just if you might ask. Yeah. So I'm okay to share a copy of my passport if you ask this in the later, in the questions. Yeah. All right. So we talked about the program descriptions. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce and give you a bit of value. All right. So to share with you some of the details. So the Chinese stratagems first. So we have, as I mentioned, 36 Chinese stratagems. They're based on the art of war, the philosophy behind the art of war by Sun Tzu. Those stories are very, very old. We don't know who wrote them, but they are at least for sure a few thousand years old, probably 4,000 years old. And so if you know how your Asian counterpart think, you'll be able to achieve your goals basically with your partners, your clients, and your investors. So this is very important to know about those Chinese strategies. And there's a Chinese poem. It's another of those stories of four characters. It's a proverb, and it says like there are Chinese people anywhere in the world, right? Wherever the ocean waves touch, they are obviously Chinese. So basically, those are very relevant even in the US. Whenever you talk with someone that is actually from Chinese origin, but they also remember Chinese characters are used in Japanese, in Korea. They are the source of the Korean culture. They're also very closely related to Vietnamese, right? If you go to an old temple in Vietnam, you might see Chinese characters. So I think we have to recognize that Chinese over millennia spread its influence, in across the world, basically. So we want to know about those strategies. So there are 36 strategies and they're very cleverly divided into 6 families of strategies to give you an advantage, to seize an opportunity, to attack, to create confusion, to make you gain ground, and also to tell you what to do in desperate situations. So those are very interesting strategies, very meaningful, and all the Chinese people will know them. Okay, so there's even a Chinese poem that is made with one character of the name of every single strategy, so people remember them. So it's quite impressive. The first family, advantageous strategies. So what does it mean? Actually, it means to maximize your position. Maximize your position. So you might be in a specific situation and you want to make the most out of it. You want to exploit your strength, utilize your strength. That's what it is about for this family of strategies. So the first one is called Fool the Emperor to Cross the Sea. In Chinese, Man Tian Guo Hai. So I'll first start by sharing an example, a case. And this is quite relevant to the people of the Global Chamber because basically this is about Mr. M. And I had a pleasure, it was from Easton, Pennsylvania. Okay, so from the US. So during a business trip to visit his partner, Mr. M, it's called Richard, is invited to be picked up at the airport and taken to a restaurant to unwind after a very long journey. And while having a relaxing dinner with his friend, he's thinking the real business will start the next day. And suddenly he's presented with a proposal. He had a very long trip. is so exhausted from the long trip, and he's in his 60s, and 12-hour jet lag. He arrives at this hotel and goes, "Oh yeah, sure, let's have a nice casual dinner," right? So he feels like, yeah, it would be great. And his friend, I think this is also very important to stress the importance of my friend. If you hear someone say my friend, basically you are a target, right? It doesn't mean that you are a friend, you are a business partner. You come here for business. So it means be careful, my friend. Oh, okay, I'm your target now. You have to realize this, very important. Um, so anyway, he goes to that dinner, and during that dinner, suddenly he's presented with a new project. He was actually the leader of a home decor company making over 200 million US a year of annual sales. And he was pushed into saying yes to a new line, developing a new line of business in the cookware business. And he had no idea what this business was about, who were the key players, the technology, all of those, like it was totally something really new. And if you have any question, let me know. I'll be a bit more because today is more like a sharing. So I try to give you details, but usually I try to make it a bit more interactive and ask you questions. Um, but basically, what's happening is being pushed to say yes, right? So this is actually what his friend is trying to achieve. So this is a trap, obviously, right? He doesn't know anything about this new line of business. And around a dinner with a nice drink, my friend, yeah, and I'm very exhausted, I'm jet lagged. Yeah, let's do this business together. And those are big people, they if they say something, they will usually do it, they're talking about big investments. So that's the kind of situation. So this is a case that is a real situation that I've lived myself. I actually I work with Richard quite a bit, in those days. So this is really something that you can see. So what's going on, right? Why are we talking about this strategy? Well, fool the emperor to cross the sea come from the story of an emperor, the Emperor Taizong from the Tang Dynasty. And he was an emperor, right? And he had everything basically. He had a small kingdom, in China. I mean, back then, China was not unified. It was not a single country, but was made up of many smaller states. And so, he was actually the emperor. He was content with whatever he had. But of course, he had generals, and his generals were actually not happy. What do generals do? They go to war. That's their life. So the generals wanted to go to war and fight the other kingdoms. And so the emperor said, well, I'm a little bit seasick. I don't really want to go over there because, they were talking about going to the state that is in the current Korea, South Korea. And yeah, so he said no, like in a indirect way, right? Yeah, I'm a bit seasick, maybe next time, later. And so what did the general do, right? They organized a very big banquet. They invited him to go to a small village on the seaside, and they had like big boats, wooden boats, and they disguised them as a village. And obviously he entered for having a big party, big dinner. And in the middle of the dinner, suddenly the table started shifting and moving, and then he asked one of his ministers to go and have a look, and the minister came back with a white face and say, "Hey, I think you have to see this." And actually, they were in the middle of the sea. So this is the story. Everyone knows this story. And fool the emperor to cross the sea, it means that even your own people might trick you to reach their goal. Okay, so this is what it means. So you want to disguise true intentions behind familiar and non-threatening fronts to achieve goals unnoticed. Okay, so this is about this strategy. So the first step is you want to gain clarity. So how to gain clarity? You might have like small red flags. Okay, so if you see, for example, unusual transparency, Chinese people usually they never tell you everything in advance. So if suddenly you say that you see that they're actually telling you everything in advance, it's probably a trap, okay? It's probably this strategy being played on you. So be very careful. If you see unusual transparency, and there's many red flags. Okay, the time is ticking, so I want to move on a bit faster. The next step
I
after
have a
gaining
question.
clarity. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, excuse me. I think there may be some questions because this is your stratagems are just that, and they're adding enlightenment and understanding. So I don't want to miss the opportunity. Is it okay to have
Yes,
entertain a few questions?
yes, it's perfect. Please go ahead.
Is that okay? Okay. Um, anyone, feel free to share any comments or questions that you have at this time. Is this concept new to many? Uh, I know you're Catherine. Good to have you on. I know you're in Japan. I'm not sure if there's some similarities that you might want to share or anybody else who has questions about it or comments. Okay, please just feel free to unmute yourself. Now, what I will say while they're doing that, if they choose to, is it sounds somewhat deceptive. I mean, there's stratagems, but you fool them and tell them he's not on the water, get their trust, and while he's eating dinner, do this proposal and then let him say yes. Is it not perceived that way, or is it looked at as ancient wisdom?
It is business, right? So if you see an opportunity, you should seize it. And we're not here to make friends, we're here to do business. So that's how
Okay,
the Chinese people will see it. Okay.
okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions?
I I just had one comment about the use of the word friend because I'm from New York, like you are, Dana, and when people call me friend, immediately I'm warned, and so thank you, Jean-Baptiste, for signaling that. I kind of feel that way everywhere. I shouldn't, right? There's people that are genuinely say they're your friend and they genuinely mean it. And that's a good thing, like John Maxwell teaches. But you're saying, JB, that really every Chinese person that would say that, or like what are you saying in terms of that? Just that when someone says that, just to be warned, and that's the general kind of approach, or is it, well, what should we take from that?
Very
Just to
good.
be aware? Is it just a signal to be aware?
Yes, I think it is. Every kind of relationship is unique, so it's not possible to say it's 100% always the case. But in general, when someone, I've been through a lot of experiences in 20 years. And when someone is telling you, my friend or friend, or you're actually a target, you're someone of interest, someone of very high interest. So you should be very cautious. You know it doesn't mean my friend. You're not a friend. We're not actually really talking about friendship at all. It's only business, right? So they want to present and try to maybe trick you or not trick you, but make you feel comfortable. That's the point. Make you feel comfortable, make you feel at home. Okay, so if you feel at home, and we're going to come back to that, but if you feel at home when you should not, that's the point where you're weak. Okay, they create a weakness by making you feel comfortable. That's the value, and they try to say my friend, but they might also do many other things. And we'll go back to that in a second when we'll go to the next slide.
I'm just from a framework, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Are these art of war concepts, or did you kind of study art of war and your own experience and then create your own list, or is this some list that is universally known? How does this list compare to other lists that we might know?
Very good question. Thank you for this, Doug. So basically, if you talk to any Chinese scholar, they will tell you about th two different streams. One is Confucius. Confucius is more like, philosophical and more yin and yang, like more, I would say non-conflictual. And then you have also The Art of War by Sun Tzu. So they were two very well-known philosophical persons, and Confucius and Kongzi and Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu, yeah. And so Sun Tzu is more confrontational. and he wrote The Art of War. And I think this book is very critical. The book is very well known in military, in politics, in economics. It's studied like it's been studying all around the world. And I believe people in the US, even in the army, they know about this book and they still study it. Okay, so this is very relevant. So coming to the 36 strategies, they come from a similar lineage with the Art of War. And the 36 strategies have been designed a very long time ago. And like what I said, they're actually not strategies at the very beginning. They're just Chinese proverbs. They're made of 4 characters. You can see the Man Tian Guo Hai, right? So Man Tian Guo Hai, remember Gong Xi Fa Cai, Gong Hai Fa Choi to say Happy New Year. Or you might say Nian Nian You Yu, like for you wish everyone to have fish on the table. We wish, or you might say Bai Fa Bai Zhong. Bai Fa Bai Zhong is you hit 100 times and 100 times in the target. So you wish success. Or you might also wish, Ma Dao Chang Gong, the horse leads the way. Like you might have so many sayings or Chinese proverbs like that. And they're literally everywhere in Chinese. People use them every single day when they speak. But there are 36 of them which are very relevant to negotiation, and this is one of them. And like I said earlier, those 36 proverbs were arranged based on a story. So they refer to a story. And there's a poem that uses one single character from those to help people remember them. So if you were born in China, you must know about those stories. It's like, we'll go back to that later, but the fables, the ant and the grasshopper, who, everyone knows about those stories in Europe, Well, I grew up with those stories. So in China, it's the same, people know about those stories. It's part of, it's very, very deep, and sometimes people don't realize that they exist. They might not be aware, but it's inside of their head. It's part of the culture. It's so deep. It's very critical to know them and to know those stories. If you want to be successful in Asia, you have to know about those. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so this step is about getting clarity, right? To realize that we have this strategy being played on, someone is playing on, this strategy around. The next step is you want to gain control, right? If someone is playing a trick on you, you want to be able to protect yourself. So how do you want to protect yourself in that situation, with Richard just now? It's a real story, like I said. So you want to maintain vigilance. Okay, do not let familiarity or routine lower your guard. Treat every single meeting as potentially significant. It doesn't matter if you think the business is going to start the next day. The minute you come out of the plane, that's when business really starts. Don't think it's going to start the next day. The minute you meet with your partner, it's time. It's the show is on. You have to know that. You need to verify information. That's another good way to protect yourself. Verify every single piece of information that you're given, because people might be presenting things to you when you're in a weak state, and they will try to get whatever they can from you when you are weak. And this is what you want to do. So cross-check information. Don't say yes. Don't say no. Give me some time. I need to study a bit more. Okay, so cross-check information. You can ask for probing questions because, especially as we all know in Asia, people never say yes or no. They always say yes. But yes doesn't mean yes, right? It means yes, I agree to to continue the discussion. I agree to get more information. Tell me more. That's what it means. So you want to ask a probing question. You might want to say, are you interested to work together? Yes. Are you interested to receive a sample? Yes. Are you interested to meet again? Yes. When? Okay, go deeper, one layer deeper, and then one layer deeper, and then you try to probe and really see what they mean, because people sometimes they say yes just because saying no would be bad. You lose face. If you say no, they might feel upset, or you might not see them again. You close the opportunity, the window of opportunity. If you say yes, maybe they will come back. Maybe the situation will change. You don't know all the details. Just say yes, of course. All right. So ask for probing questions. So you want to protect yourself. The next step is separate people from the problems. And this is true in the US. This is also what you learn if you do the program on negotiation at Harvard. So this is also very international, very relevant. Separate people from problems. You know, they're good people. They have a problem. Let's try to resolve the problem and separate the people from the problems. Very important. Another option would be to set up a very clear agenda. So list clear and also document the agenda so you know where you are, what you are trying to achieve, stay focused, you know, clear agenda. Okay, let's talk about this today. I come for this. Let's talk about this, not something else. Okay, so you want to gain control. Next case. Okay, so now we have the same person, Richard, and he has learned from this strategy being played on him, you know, so he has learned from that. He become very smart. So what is he doing? He's actually receiving a delegation coming from Asia. So what he wants to do is set up a very familiar environment. He presents his guests with an itinerary translated in Chinese. He invites them to go to a very nice Chinese restaurant. He's spending a little bit of money. He has a bus with a tour guide that speaks Chinese. But remember, it's an investment, right? So what's happening? Usually I will make it more interactive with questions again. Feel free to stop me if you have any question, but in interest of saving time, I'll go a bit faster. So actually, he spends a few thousands of dollars for organizing this, but his goal is to have a deal. Okay, so he has a visit. He's waiting for his client or his partners, and he wants to make a proposal. Okay, let's do this. And if I do this at a convenient time, you know, I'm French, so if I invite my Chinese partners to go to Paris on the Champs-Élysées, you know, on the restaurant on the top of the Eiffel Tower, obviously my guests will be, wow, the Champs-Élysées, French, blah blah blah, you know, oh, the city of love, you know. So when this is your guests are in that stage, you know, bam, you make a proposal. By the way, my contract, you know, and this is what I like to achieve. Please, can you sign here? And, you know, the terms you might not notice, but they are 10, 20, 30% better for me this time because you come all the way. I spent a little bit of money to invite you at a very nice restaurant, and it's more difficult for you to say no, right? You're in a show, you're in Paris, you know, come on the Eiffel Tower, you know, like, yeah, you know, so it's a good way for you to utilize this strategy, fool the emperor to cross the sea. People might not even realize it, that you are actually working on this. You know, you make a proposal at a very nice restaurant, you feel very comfortable, and you have yourself a very nice deal, okay, that is very skewed in your advantage. Okay, so that's how you want to use this strategy to your own advantage. So how to gain influence? We've seen this example, but there's many other options. So you want to, you know, embed your real intentions in routine, present key objectives as part of a very normal business process. That's how we do business here. You also want to create a very comforting environment. You want to distract, you know, the other party so that they kind of lose focus, you know. You also want to delay and prepare. You know, preparation is very important. We'll come back to that point because keep this in mind. But you might want to delay and prepare. Okay, so this is how you want to gain influence from this strategy. All right, so we come to a quote by the former president of Taiwan, Lee Teng-hui. And remember this, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. When you least expect it, when you are feeling comfortable, something might happen because you're not looking, you're not prepared, you're not expecting anything to happen, and you are actually in a weak state. Okay, it's a weakness. So we have to be very alert all the time in business. Okay, so this is like an interesting sharing and a quote that I thought would be interesting. So let's go in Europe this time. Okay, so as I said, In Europe, we also have a lot of wisdom. I was born in France, and when I was a kid, I had to learn some of those stories by heart. It was incredible because I had to learn those stories, and they were written in Old French. Very hard to understand. You don't know what it means, but you have to learn them, and that's part of the curriculum in schools today in France. If you are a kid, you have to learn those stories. And even though people don't realize what they are, they're so important. So what I've done is I've used those stories and this European wisdom, and I plugged it in the framework, the Chinese framework of the 36 Chinese strategies. So let's get to it now. So again, you want to be able to understand your European partner beyond the language barrier and beyond the culture barrier. You want to gain access to this knowledge. Okay, so you will likely be winning. Remember that the title of the book, Winning with Ancient Wisdom, it's called winning because there's a loser. And who is the loser? Is the person who is not prepared and doesn't have any strategy. If you have a strategy, if you come prepared, you may not win all the time, but you're much more likely to win. Okay, so this is so critical. All right, so let's go back to the European strategy. Again, they're organized in 6 families, and there are hundreds of stories, and I've selected 36, the most appropriate for negotiation. And the first one, again, is advantageous strategies, maximizing your position and exploiting your strength. So let's look at a story, The Ant and the Grasshopper, La Cigale, la Fourmi. For those of you who speak French, it's very well known, La Cigale, la Fourmi. So you can instantly recognize that the title is a little bit different because there was a small adaptation between Aesop from Greece and La Fontaine from France. So instead of The Ant and the Grasshopper, you have the ant and the cicada in French. But the story is roughly the same. So this might be a question you might have asked. So what does it matter in business? Well, let's have a look. Entrepreneur Invest is actually a company based in Sweden, and they're backed by the IKEA family. And for those of you who are not familiar with IKEA, they're extremely good at planning and management and preparation. Okay, if you are a supplier, I've dealt with Chinese suppliers that work with IKEA. They give you your business up like three years ahead of time. You have an agenda. You know exactly how much business you have this year, next year, and next year. You have a plan. Okay, they plan everything down to the details. You know the screw, how many screws you need to use. You know, and where they're coming from. They will send engineers from Germany, from Sweden to your factory in China to make sure the process is like a switch watch. Okay, it's clock. It's really very well planned. So that's the process utilized by IKEA, and this is one of the reasons why IKEA is very popular because they plan very, very well. Okay, so this is the same type of example. So Entrepreneur Invest, backed by the IKEA family, is focused on acquiring and supporting entrepreneurial ventures and SMEs with strong long-term potential. They really focus on in Sweden, but it's applicable internationally for IKEA. So instead of rushing into deals and trying to extract short-term gains, they are very cautious and they invest in diligent preparation, due diligence, and building partnership with a clear strategic risk management. That's what they do, and that's how they are successful, and that's how they became who they are today, IKEA. Okay, very, very interesting. Again, I'm trying to make it more interactive during the program, but you get the point. So let's move on. So what is the story about? The story is about an ant that is working tirelessly all summer, and at the same time, the grasshopper is singing and dancing the whole summer. Okay, this is the story, the fable. You might find it like in many bookstores, for kids. And so what happens when the winter comes, right? So finally the grasshopper has nothing to eat. And so the grasshopper is going to find the ant and say, "Hey, may I have a little bit of food? It's getting cold. I have no food." And the ant says, "Hey, but what were you doing this summer, And the grasshopper replies, "Well, I was too busy dancing and singing." Well, the ant says, Well, I'm sorry. Then you'd better go back and dance and sing now, you know? So that's the story. All right. It's a bit sad. In some stories, actually, it doesn't say what will happen to the grasshopper or the cicada. But in some stories, it's really very explicit that the grasshopper or the cicada might die. Okay. So this is, of course, it's a kid story, so you want to make it more friendly. Um, but what does it mean in business? Because this is a real story. It has been passed on from generation to generation for thousands of years. So what is the essence of the story? In negotiation, okay? In negotiation, it means to prepare very diligently. You need to invest in long-term relationship, in value creation, ready yourself to seize an opportunity when they arise. Okay, that's what it means. This strategy is so important, and it's closely related to the title of the book, Winning. Like I said, you need to be prepared for any important meeting. You need to be prepared coming to this meeting today. I started with data. We worked on this presentation for weeks, you know, so we have to be prepared. If something is important to you, you need to prepare, okay? And so many people sometimes forget and just go into a meeting. They have zero preparation. They just say, hi, hi, okay, what's going on? We don't know, you know, who is sitting in front of me? I don't know, you know, like this kind of situation. So this is the point. You need to prepare, okay? So gaining clarity, same kind of situation. Step one, gain clarity. So when are you facing the strategy? One or both of the parties would like planning. So they might have very unrealistic expectations. They might be over-reliant on each other. They might make very last-minute demands because they don't know that the deal is a good deal, you know, so they might just like throw in a last-minute request, but it shows that they're not prepared. They don't know the market. They don't know what they can expect. And they also might ignore warnings and advice. You know, you might tell them something, but they're totally closed. You know, they don't listen because they don't know the situation. You know, in negotiation, we talk having a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, right? So you want to understand what are your alternatives. And that's how you can negotiate the best, right? If you don't have an alternative, you're not prepared clearly. What's your reservation point, right? The reservation point is when you're going to walk away. It doesn't mean that you're going to walk away and never come back. You might come back later, but you need to walk away because you don't get enough value for yourself. So do you know what's your reservation point when you go into a meeting, right? So this is basically a critical point. So getting clarity. So those are small red flags to tell you that, you know, this strategy or situation is at play. So you're facing this strategy. So how do you want to gain control? This is quite obvious to defend yourself. You want to insist in early preparation. You know, don't let people push you and go too quickly into a meeting if you don't have time to get prepared, because obviously they will eat you. You know, if they're prepared, you're not prepared, obviously it's not right. You know, don't go into this meeting. Clearly clarify the responsibilities. So who is responsible for what? Who are the different party? You know, who the different parties? Who is doing what, you know? So this is very important. You want to manage expectations. You want to build buffers. You know, if you have a client asking you or pushing you for something, your factory is telling you that it will happen next week. Well, make sure you build a buffer, say 2 weeks. You know, don't say, oh, just 1 week. Just give time to prepare, time to adjust. You know, so that's what you want to do to protect yourself. And you want to use very clear and objective criteria, because sometimes people are very vague. And if you say something blue, what is blue, right? Blue is blue for me, but it might be a different blue for you. So you want to clarify the objectives and use very objective criteria to gain control. The last point you want to do with this is to gain influence, right? So how to gain influence? What I said earlier, if you're prepared, the other party is not prepared, you have technically an advantage. All right. So you want to invest in your preparation. You want to capitalize on your readiness. When you're ready, the other is not. You want to create urgency for the others. The clock is ticking, you know, okay, we don't have time. Bam, 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 you know, let's do it. But you know your market, they don't know. So you know, your situation, your proposal might be much better, basically. You might come out of this meeting with much more value than the other party, okay? offer conditional support, and leverage timing. All right, so this is the end of this presentation. I would like to invite you to ask questions, and please feel free to say anything you like, positive or even negative, because everything is, I like critics, we're here to learn and study all the time and improve, on what we have. So thank you very much for your time. Any question?
I saw Doug's comment in the chat, and he said, "Thank you for sharing your knowledge." And he's happy to have endorsed your book. And he appreciates each person's presence on tonight. So I want to at least put that statement out there. And feel free to unmute yourselves if you'd like to comment or question even.
Hi, Dana. It's Catherine here.
Yeah,
Happy
this
to
was
see you,
really wonderful.
Catherine.
Sorry,
to see you
Rebecca.
both.
I was going to say thank you very much to Jean-Baptiste. I'm based in Japan. I've been here more than 23 years. Obviously, learned a lot about the differences between what you've explained today and the business style in Japan. But it was very informative to go back and think about. I remember speaking with someone from China years ago when they hadn't paid a bill, a Chinese client, and they said, "You're the fool." Because in China, if you are tricked or you are, you are you are not the victim, you are the fool. So that just brought it back to me what you said today, whereas the opposite would be the same, would be Japan style, right? So lots of things, lots of traditions and proverbs and sayings have been passed from China to Japan, but I think they took on their own flavor here. So I loved listening to you. I will get the book. I'm about to head to New Zealand this coming weekend. So hopefully a bookshop in New Zealand has it so I can look at it over the time I'm there rather than wait until I come back to Japan end of year. But thank you very much.
Thank you,
You're very
Catherine.
welcome, Catherine. It's available on Amazon. It's also on Ingram's Park. So I think if a bookstore wants to get it, they can get it. And I'm actually about to publish the French version.
Oh,
That should
lovely.
be back.
Oh la la.
Yes.
So no, I
Very nice.
can't book
Yes.
it. If I get it in Amazon now, it will be delivered while I'm away. So I'll get it either when I come back or hopefully search around for it in Nouvelle-Zélande. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
going
Catherine.
home. You're going home for the holidays. Safe
I've
travels.
got a conference and then I'll stay on working from there. Yes. Thanks,
Awesome.
Dana.
Rebecca, I saw you were going to make a comment as well or a question. Welcome, Rebecca. I know that little naughty button that you have to push so that we can hear you. Unmute, please. I think she may have frozen. Um, this was such an eye opener, and that's what we really hope to gain and give when we offer the Globinars for authors. The
Can you hear
StrateGEMS and how
me?
you get one second, the StrateGEMS and how you applied it in from the Asian culture and transferred it to the European culture. It just, I have a different perspective. I promise you. When I am in negotiation with people from that particular region, I'm going to apply these and certainly get the book and let you know how my negotiation skills have been sharpened, hopefully, or continuing to learn. Yes, Rebecca, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. My internet is shaky. But John, thank you so much. I appreciate your wisdom. And I would like to hear a little bit more because there's a lot of Chinese that do business in the continent of Africa. And if you have ever trained some African, business people on this topic before.
Very good question. As you know, France is quite connected with Africa, and like I have dealt with several entrepreneurs. One of them was based in Togo, and it's more like a serial entrepreneur, and he has a trading business across Europe, Asia, and Togo. And he's doing business with Chinese also and Europeans. So for him, it's really relevant. And yeah, they're relevant for dealing with Europeans and dealing with Chinese and Asian people. I think there's no question about that. Um, if you have any specific situation, I'm very happy you can contact and connect with me on LinkedIn, and we might have a one-on-one session if you like. Yeah.
Awesome. So you can find John Baptiste,
Baptiste,
I'm giving you
yes.
another name, Déal or Deal in English, on LinkedIn and connect there. And certainly he's a part of the Global Chamber. He's a Globie as well. We just want to thank you again. Any final comments or questions? I just don't want to overlook someone because you guys came to win tonight and he gave you the tools in which to do it and to be successful. I will just inform you that our next and final Global Chamber Author Series will be the third Wednesday in the month of December. It'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then if you're interested as an author to be featured for Global Chamber in the coming year, 2026, reach out to me and let me know. LinkedIn or either my Global Chamber or personal email is fine. I want to thank each of you. You guys are great. And you did exactly what we set out to do, and that was to engage, to show up, to hear, to learn, apply, and to engage and share your experiences too. So thank each and every one of you. And Jean-Baptiste, merci beaucoup. And I should learn how to say this in Chinese. Oh, 谢谢.
Yes. 谢谢你, yes.
谢
Merci,
谢
Dana.
你.谢谢
Yes.
你. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful,
Tino.
wonderful, wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Bye-bye.